Let's get cranking. Okay, awesome. We are live everywhere. Welcome to your morning sales supercharge. Every weekday morning, at least most every weekday morning at 8:30 Eastern, I go live here to share with you how you can uplevel your mindset, your wealth consciousness, your sales processes so that you can achieve the goals that you have in your sales, your business, and your life. Let me take a moment and just welcome Liz. Good morning. Mary Beth, Bambi. Good morning. Good morning. I love hearing from you. If you are joining live on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, the only way I know you're there is if you comment, and I would love to hear from you. We're talking today. Hey, Michelle. Oh, hey, Jen. How are you? Good morning. So we're digging in. If you've been joining this series for any amount of time, every now and then I get an itch to do a good book study with you. And so we've been doing this Think and Grow Rich book study. And, it's so interesting as I don't know if you all have felt this, like as we've gone through this together and kind of pulled out from Elise's perspective, what are the most important parts? Parts of it have felt really like, oh my gosh, yes. And then parts of it have felt a little bit like, either it feels kind of antiquated or it feels like we just need to modernize some of the language and make sure that I just want to make sure I'm communicating it in a way that I would normally teach for my clients. Good morning, Mary Beth. Good morning, Michelle. Martin, good afternoon. Great to see you. And so the topic for today, we're in this series, Napoleon Hill is talking about the 11 factors of great leadership. And I think this one is important because I know for so many of you and for me too, right? We're all looking to level up in the impact we have in the world with our clients, with our team. And it doesn't mean you have to be an entrepreneur for this to make sense, right? We've got a lot of people in our community who are in sales leadership, but we're all leading someone, even ourselves, right? And so the topic for today is actually, Napoleon Hill talks about the second great factor of leadership is self-control. And when I was getting ready to teach this today, I got to be honest, I had a little bit of like because I think so much of what's taught in today's society, in today's world, is really about deprivation when it comes to self-control. And I lived that way for so many years. And I thought I was just having self-control when in reality, what I didn't realize was I was cutting myself off at the knees because I wasn't honoring my desires. I wasn't honoring what I wanted to do. So I want to just preface, let me know in the comments if you can relate to that or if that triggers anything in you, because I want to preface the whole conversation today with, we're going to take a different angle on this. And we're going to talk about, at least from my perspective, what it means to have self-control and how you can use it when working with others, with leadership, with yourself to get better results. Okay. So like I said, I feel like I got to do a big disclaimer. This is not about deprivation because that's how so many people think about it. And that's not what we're talking about here. But let's take a moment. I'm trying to balance around the mic and get this book out. Okay. Let's talk about this for a moment. The second major factor of leadership, self-control. The person who lacks self-control can never control others. That's really all we need to read from this. The person who lacks self-control can never control others. Good morning, Kalua. Good to see you. And here's what I want to talk about with self-control. The first thing, I want to go back to the first point I was making. This is not about not honoring your desires, because part of how you're going to grow, part of how you're going to make more money, part of how you're going to, if you are growing and scaling a business or a company, work with your team, is by really tuning into what your desires are, especially if you're a woman. That is how you lead most powerfully, is by getting connected with your desires and letting them lead and really honoring those. But this is more about learning to manage yourself in that. And I hope this makes sense. And I want to clarify. What I mean by that. It's about learning to manage your thoughts and your emotions first and foremost, which is so much of what we talk about in these morning sales supercharges, right? And in the She Sells community. So it's not about you. If you notice, he said, like, the person who lacks self-control can never control others. Oftentimes when we're trying to control someone else, whether it's a member of our team or a member of our family, and I don't even think it's oftentimes, I think it's always when we're trying to control someone else, it's because we don't feel in control personally. Are you with me there? Have you ever had a boss, a manager, a leader, a partner who was very controlling, and you realize it's not because of you, it's actually because they don't feel in control personally? And have you ever demonstrated that personality? I would never do that, right? I totally know in my own life, thank you for the hearts, when I go into trying to control either my partner Jason, or like other people around me, it's because some part of me doesn't feel in control. 100%. I'm glad this seems to be resonating. Oh, Christina, hey, good morning. And so this is so important to notice, just to notice. And this is important with your leadership too, growing your leadership, developing such intentionality and such keen self-awareness that you notice when you start to feel kind of grippy and grabby, like you got to get somebody else to do something for you, or like, otherwise you're not going to be good. It means you don't feel in control personally. And this is also something that I think is so critical that we think about in the sales world. I was leading a webinar yesterday with this very cool company called SalesMate, and we were talking about like what happens when a deal falls through that you thought was going to happen, and how so often when that happens, we make it mean, oh my gosh, like my goal isn't meant to be, I'm a failure, blah, blah, blah. Or we try to like control and strong arm the deal or the client into closing. I don't know if any of you have ever had that experience, been taught that's how you have to sell. That's a lot of what I was kind of brought up with. And when we do that, it's because we don't feel in control personally. It's because we don't feel in control personally. When you try to control others, you don't feel in control personally. So this is really important to know. And I see there's some comments coming through, so I just want to take a moment. Bambi saying rings true. Never thought of it that way. Yep. Laura, my control would come from a place of fear, and I got to shift this by acknowledging the fear. Totally. And just feeling it and noticing and having that self-awareness of, oh, I'm trying to control my team member. I'm trying to control, again, my partner, whoever, because there's a part of me right now that doesn't feel safe and doesn't feel in control. So this is why the inner work is so important. So important. If you're going to step up into any greater level of leadership in your business or your life in general, which I know is why you're here. I'm going to take a moment for comments. Jen on YouTube is saying, so important for someone for impulse control. I never felt I could control my emotions or self-regulate. Wish someone showed me this sooner. Self-awareness is everything. Yeah, it really, really is. So we just have to start to notice. And I think, I'm not going to talk a lot today about becoming more self-aware of your thoughts and emotions, because we talk about that a lot on other live streams, and that's not the focus for today. But that's the first thing. And then one of the things I've really learned to do with my own team, specifically with work, is I've shifted how I relate to other people. And here's something that's also so important to know. Everyone around you is just going to mirror back to you parts of yourself that you get to heal. Okay. So we were on a 10K club group call a couple weeks back, and there was a woman on there who was talking about a client deal that had gone south, and there was some stuff going on with this interaction with this other person that was very triggering to her. And as she was talking and just knowing this person's situation, it was like everything that had happened with her mom in her life growing up was being mirrored back to her with this client. And we have to realize and understand that whether it's a client, whether it's a team member, whether it's your partner, whether it's a friend, anything that's triggering in you, anything that somebody does that triggers anger, anxiety, fear, whatever, it's just a mirror back to you of a part of yourself that still needs to be healed. That's why we lead with healing in the She Sells community. And in the process is because you can layer on the best strategy in the world, the best sales strategy in the world. But if you put it on something, and it's not like no one's broken. This isn't the word I want to use. But it's more like when you can layer that on a really solid foundation, that's when you get jet fuel and rocket fuel. But if you layer it on and it's like, there's a bunch of holes and potholes in the road that still need to be paved over and healed, it kind of just like sinks in and doesn't have the effect you're looking for. I hope that makes sense. But that's why we lead with healing, because and usually the stuff is stuff that, we need to heal that happened with parents growing up, whether it felt major, whether it felt minor at the time, doesn't really matter. But there's stuff that needs to be healed. So what I've learned to do is just notice that. And it's like, if something happens with a team member that triggers me, it's like the self-awareness piece. Ooh, what am I being invited to look at in myself right now? That thing just triggered a feeling of unworthiness or a feeling of being taken advantage of, right? Because those are some of my patterns that I get to heal in this lifetime. And I'm here for it. And I've done a lot of healing work in it. And I know it's something that we just get to keep doing, right? As we raise to new levels, there's like a next level healing that gets to take place. But to lead with curiosity is so important in your conversations with other people, including your conversations with team or with clients. So one of the things I've really disciplined myself to do is, if something happens, and let's say I think I clearly communicated something to a team member and it doesn't, and I thought we were in agreement, and then it doesn't happen that way. Communication always lies, like the meaning of the communication always lies with the person who received it. So this is a teaching in NLP that's been really powerful for me, is to realize I may think I said, hey, blah, blah, blah needs to happen. But if they heard something else needs to happen, that was the actual meaning that was communicated in the conversation. And so where we can run into a lot of issues and a lot of like, oh my gosh, I wish I hadn't said that, is when we jump to assumptions that somebody else understood it the way we meant it, and that they were trying to self-sabotage, they were trying to sabotage you or do something. Like, again, your mind will go crazy with these stories about other people that aren't true. So we have to lead with curiosity and just ask, like always, 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 before you go into blame, fault, trigger. Well, you'll feel the trigger, but then it's before you communicate back with that person. Hey, I'm curious. I noticed this happened. Can you tell me more about what happened here? Leading with curiosity. 9 times out of 10, you will find that there's something that you didn't know was going on, or they took a form of communication with you to mean something that you didn't mean. And so another part of how you can help circumvent this is just, especially when you're working with a team, ask the person to communicate back to you what they just heard. If you're delegating a new task, if you're creating a new process, like, hey, so can we just review this? And I want you to tell me. This works better when you're working with someone who's subordinate to you. But can you tell me back what you heard? And let's just make sure we're on the same page with this. So that's the part of self-control that for you as a leader is so important, is knowing how to control your thoughts, your feelings, and your reactions to things. Okay. We really want to get very intentional and just never speak from that place of anger, of trigger, of judgment. You'll virtually always regret what you say during those times. So lead with curiosity. Lead with curiosity. So if anyone has questions on this, pop them in the comments now. Jen on YouTube is saying, for someone who hasn't had much trauma, didn't know I needed healing, it's made a world of difference. Oh, I'm so glad. Yeah. Self-awareness and why we act in certain ways. And with the healing stuff, and here's what I'll say too, because we've got, we have both men and women in our community. And, I work with clients across the board. Some of them had very clear childhood trauma. And some of them come into this work not really thinking they do. But trauma, again, because communication lies in the person who receives it. As a child, we have to first acknowledge parents are always doing the best they could with what they had. Always, always, always. And oftentimes what they didn't know is they were trying to raise you as their inner child, as their inner 7-year-old. And so like everyone's just doing the best they can with what they have. But something as little as like, let's say that you're at the dinner table and you're 4 and you knock over a thing of water and your dad goes to grab it and he's not upset. He's just going to grab it to try to clean it. But because it was a really sudden motion, your 4-year-old brain registers that as like, he's mad at me. He's upset with me. Right. And that's like a micro trauma. So we all have it. And I'm not into like glorifying the trauma or staying in it or living in it, because you can either be committed to your future and to what you're creating or to reliving the past. So this is not about staying stuck in it, but it's about awareness. It's about a lot of awareness. Ooh, that just triggered something in me that is reminiscent of something that happened with mom or dad, or I don't even need to know where it came from, but it's triggering this emotion in me right now. So let me be self-aware before I react to it. Bambi, awesome advice to ask the person to communicate back to ensure both on the right page. Yep, absolutely. It's a little trick, a little thing you can do. And I would recommend always doing when you're communicating with someone else that you're delegating something to. So, all right, my friends. Hey, I want to just let everybody know, if you haven't downloaded our guide, we've got a free guide. I'm big on mindset. I'm big on mindset here, but also having the right words to say in your sales conversations is really, really, really important and helpful. And so we created a free guide for you, 5 sales scripts to increase your closing rate by 50% or more, that I would highly encourage you to download. And you'll get some free video training from me in it too. So it's elisearcher.com/scripts if you want to grab that free guide. And you'll hear, like, in my own experience and years of sales and sales coaching. Thank you for the hearts. The 5 things that have made the biggest impact. None of them are pushy. None of them are hard sell. It's all the opposite, but it'll work. Like, this stuff is good. So elisearcher.com/scripts if you want to grab that. Jen, was there a camera in my childhood home? Yeah, right. I know. This is the beauty of this work, is we can all relate to this, right? And that's part of our journey here on earth, is we get to heal these things and become greater in the process. So, all right, my loves, I'm wishing everybody a beautiful day. Join again tomorrow morning. If you're new here, I'm so glad you're here. Join again tomorrow morning, 8:30 Eastern. And you can, of course, always watch the replays as well on my Instagram or YouTube page. But so glad to have you here this morning. Wishing you an awesome, awesome rest of your day. And I will see you tomorrow morning. Lots of love. Bye for now.